Hello students, as we have completed the first part of the lesson, our forests and people, we'll proceed to the second part of our lesson, that is the effects of deforestation. So, the meaning of deforestation is cutting down of trees in large numbers. So, why there was deforestation? Now, people used to cut the forest because of getting the wood. And during the British rule, the British government had the control over the forest. So they used to cut the forest for making human settlements, for making the homes, for building the houses of the people. Because of this, there was deforestation, that is the cutting of trees in large number. And every time, due to the rising in population means when the number of people are rising. Every day, many children are born, and each day the number of people living in our country is increasing. So that is the rising in population. The number of people that stay in a particular place is called as its population. So every day it is increasing, and due to the rising population, the forests are being cut. And since the British rule, the situation has gone very bad. Now, due to rapid deforestation, due to fast deforestation, what has happened? There is reduced forest cover. That means the amount of forest, the large number of plants are being cut. So this has reduced the forest cover. Tribals are deprived of their livelihood as the forests are cut. They are not getting the proper sources from the forest. Their income source is also not there because of the loss of the forest. They face poverty because they don't get money, they don't get the resources. They suffer from poverty. That means they don't have money to spend on them. They are suffering without food. The balance of the ecology is also harmed. Ecological balance, as I already told, that there is a relationship between the plants and the different types of animals, birds, insects. We human beings also have maintained a good relation with the forest. So all are existing in a balance, and if one of the particular thing is harmed, that is the forest, then the total ecological balance is also harmed. Next point is threatening the habitats of Adivasis. Habitats means living places. So, as the forests are being cut, this will threaten, that means it will reduce, and this will create danger to the habitats, that means the living places of the Adivasis. Since the Adivasis live near or in the forest, if the forest will be cut, then this will threaten their habitats also. So the Adivasis, they shift to the villages, towns and cities. So they adopt different means of their livelihood. They practice agriculture in the forest area. So for the Adivasis, the life becomes very troublesome. Why? Because this is not easy for them to stay in the towns and cities, mainly because they face discrimination. People think them as tribals, and they think them as separate, that people residing in the cities and towns think that the Adivasis are not as they are not modern, so they discriminate, they differentiate. They tell that yes, this is Adivasi, so they have to face this, and this is not easy for them to face this discrimination in the town areas. So they have become economically and socially backward. So still now they are having widespread poverty, there is lack of literacy, they have become backward because they don't get proper food, they don't get proper income, they don't get proper schools to study, residing in the forest. And even if they come back to the town or the cities, there also they have to face the discrimination. So they are having lots of problems. So now they have started to demand their rights. So the next point is communities dependent on the forest produce. That means the villages that are lying near the forest, those villagers that live near the forest or surrounding areas, they depend on the forest for their products. That means the forest will give some products, and the people, the villagers living near the forest, they depend on the forest. That means some of the products will be obtained from the forest. They can sell this product in the marketplace to earn their livelihood. So, see, food, fuel, medicines, fodder for livestock, building materials for their homes, non-timber products. All these are the products that you get from the forest. Food. Different types of food items can be obtained from the forest. Fuel, that is the wood that is used for burning. Medicines, fodder for livestock, that is the food for the cattle, the cow and the buffaloes, the goat, they also get their food from the forest. Building materials for their homes and other non-timber products, that means non-wood products not related to wood, this also be obtained from the forest. Forest gives us lots of things. So the people, those who stay near the forest, the villagers, they sell these products in the market. So as they sell in the market, they get some money, and so they can get a proper life. And some of these people, they are engaged in agriculture. So they do agriculture near the forest, and they use the forest land also for the grazing ground for the livestock. Livestock means the cows, buffaloes, these are cattle. That means cow, buffalo, goat, those are present in their houses. So they take into the forest for feeding. So that is called as grazing. Grazing means going to the forest and eating the grasses and the bushes there. Who will eat? The cattle. Those are known as what? Livestock. Cow, buffalo, like this. So this is the way the communities are using the forest produced. Forest produces the products that we get from the forest, including the use of the forest in the field of agriculture and the grazing ground for the livestock. So people residing near the forest are utilizing or can utilize the forest at maximum. Next topic is public-private ownership of trees, forest and sacred groves. So, the responsibility of keeping the forest safe is upon us also, because we cannot live without the forest. We get a lot of products from the forest, so we need to protect the forest. This is our duty, our responsibility. And if we don't protect the forest, if the forest is being cut at large numbers, then there will be disbalance in nature. Because forest has lots of uses, and forests are home to the tribals also, and also forests supply various products, just now you have seen, so that the people can earn their livelihood. So without the support of the tribals who live there, it is not possible to protect the forest. So there is a system of public-private ownership of this forest. So, along with the government, the local people, the private communities who live in the forest, they together try to protect the forest. So, this is called as public-private ownership. The government and the private people, those who stay near the forest or inside the forest, the tribals, they will together form committees so that they can protect the forest. Under this project, there is a joint forest management. So, this was mentioned in the National Forest Policy of 1988 and 1990. And under this, the villagers and the tribal people work with the government to protect the forest. Just now I told this is a public-private ownership. Public is government and private is the private people, that is the villagers, the tribals. They join together, they work together with the government to protect the forest. So while protecting the forest, what they will get, what the private people will get. So when they are working with the government, they will get a share whatever it is, from the legalized and organized sale of the forest products. When they organizedly sell the product in the market from the forest, they will get something in return as a share from the government, so that they can run their life properly, so they can lead a good livelihood. So they are not causing much harm to the forest, but they are protecting the forest. In turn, they are getting some of the shares, which is being. So while protecting the forest, they will get something in return, some share in return, so that they can lead their life properly. So this is the advantage of public-private ownership. The government, along with the local people, the tribals, they will work together to get a solution of protecting the forest. They will protect the forest from further damage. And in turn, they will get some share, so that they can lead their life in a proper way. Now the topic is to discuss about the people's movement. Now when the local people, they involve in the protecting of the forest, as you have already seen just now, that there's a public private ownership, and then there are different people who try to protect the forest from themselves. People take initiative, they take the first step to save the forest from any sort of damage from deforestation and other dangers. So there are different people's movements which have come up previously and nowadays also. So the people who reside in the forest, who live in the forest, along with the local people in and around the area, they protest against certain programs. But there is no violence in that. There is no fighting, no violence, but they protest. And the protest is known as the movements. The protest that they make against the destruction of the forest is called as the movement. So when the people gather together, that is called the people's movement. So it was the first kind in 1981 that was seen in Silent Valley in Kerala, which is the evergreen forest. And the people in the forest, the nearby villagers, and also from the far off the places, they protested against the government for making the hydroelectric dam. So if they would have made the hydroelectric dam on the government side, that would have flooded the forest. So they who resided near the forest, the inhabitants of the forest, the villagers, and the people who lived far away from that particular place, also protested against the government for building this hydroelectric dam. They protested against this. So this was a movement by people. Similarly, different other movements like an Apiko movement in Karnataka, Save the Forest movements in Jharkhand, Rakshasutra of Uttarakhand. So this was all about the people's movement that we have seen here, like Apiko movement, Save the Forest movement, Rakshasutra movement. So this were the movement of the people against government for making any developmental projects which would have harmed the forest. And the next topic is the Chipko movement, which was the most iconic people's movement to save the forest. So it was on 26 March 1974, where a group of women in the Chamoli district of Uttarakhand, there's a district called Chamoli in Uttarakhand, they stopped the forest contractors from cutting down the forest by hugging the trees. They simply hugged the trees with their hands, and that is why this movement is called as Chipko movement. What they were doing, they were protesting against the rapid deforestation in the Garhwal Himalayas, because this cutting of trees was affecting their livelihood and it was reducing the forest, which would have negative impact on the environment. So this group of women in the Chamoli district, they hugged the trees so that the people who came, the forest contractors who came for cutting the trees, were stopped. But this was a very simple method but effective method. So there was no deforestation further in that area. This movement also showed that how people can gather together without any weapons, without any arms, and protest against this type of work, that is deforestation. So there were similar types of movements all across India to protect the trees of the forest. And there is a good relationship between the environment and the local communities of the forest. This is also shown by these movements because people gathered together to protect the forest. So this also shows a healthy relationship between the forest and the local people. So this is the people movement are still now going on in some particular places wherever there is any constructional job or developmental projects which would create a harm to the society, harm to the forest. People are organizing, people are joining together, people are doing meetings, they are protesting against the government to prevent the construction of such type of developmental projects. So this was all about this lesson, that is our forests and people. And this was an interesting one because we have understood the uses of the forest, and we have also understood about Adivasis and the different types of people's movement. So what you should remember is that forest provides us with valuable resources and support a rich biodiversity. There is a home for the Adivasis. The Adivasis have deep and religious relations with the surrounding forest. And the deforestation had led to the loss of homes of the Adivasis, loss of homes of the animals and plants. Adivasis have not got their livelihood because of the loss of the forest products. For this, we have also seen that there is public-private ownership for the protection of the forest, and we have also understood about sacred groves. That is, the Adivasis think the forest as their god. They think forest as holy. So they worship the trees, they worship the rivers, they worship the mountains nearby the forest. They think that there is spirit living in those things. So I think all of you have understood this. Just go through the lesson, read it properly so that you can understand each and every line. Thank you.